Bienvenido a todos. The last time that I was filming for the Spanish crochet, we worked on the body yaddy yaddy of Javier. So this time we're going to work on everything else. And hopefully, by the end of this video, we will have a completed goat. So the next step that I have to do is the brazos, so it's the arms. And it says Hagan dos Comención con Marrón. So I got my brown here. And for the most part, reading the instructions, it looks like a tube. So the first vuelta, it wants me to make a magic ring. Tejan un anillo de ses media puntos. It's just the fifth row. It wants me to do something a little bit different. So that's 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Now we're going to put in the stitch marker so I know where the end of the row is. And for la dos vuelta es uno aumentar en cada uno de los 6 medio puntos. So we're going to increase at every single one of these 6 stitches. Which is to be expected. Typical pattern. Going to take that out. Put that back in. And before I lose count, we're going to put the 2 rows. There you go. Then for the 3rd and 4th one, I want 1 stitch in each one. So we're just going to quickly crochet all of that. I could tell you it's a lot more satisfying to do the smaller parts once you've got the big thing made. Because it's like, it's all about perceived progress, right? Like you do a bunch of the smaller things and then you do the bigger thing and it's like, oh my gosh, I got so much to do. But if you got the bigger thing done and then you do a bunch of the smaller things, it's like, ooh, this goes a lot quicker now. Like you've been crocheting for a while. It's like, although there are instances where the opposite is true, particularly when you're taking standardized tests. Like when you're taking a standardized test, I will answer the questions out of order if it will let me. I will go answer all the easy stuff first, so that way I get more time to spend on what are the perceived harder questions. There you go. That should be number 4. Yeah, there we go. So for the 5th round, it says 1 stitch and 1 punto molta, and then 10 medio puntos. So I do the 1 medio punto, and then I'm not sure what they mean by molta, but I saw the instructions for molta later on, so this is page 137. As I find musco molta. There you go. Oh, okay. Un punto molta es como un racimo de puntos varia que trabajan en un solo punto base y se cerran juntos. This is creating basically a little knob. In English, we would be calling this the popcorn stitch. So lacen and inserten la agua en el punto base. Okay. Lacen nuevamente, saca. ¿Cuántas veces? Las otras veces. This is a case where I think I'm going to get more from the pictures than I am from the thing. It's telling me to do it from a certain side. Okay. Wants me to do it from there. All right. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, that's not how that's going to go. Oh. I see what I'm doing now. Okay, so we're going to take that all out. Because that would have been if that was all half double crochet, and we don't want that. So when we do that, we lacen. We pull it through once. There we go. Then we lacen. Pull it through that again. There we go. We lacen. Do it like that so we have 5 double crochets instead of 5 half double crochets in the same stitch, which admittedly it's a lot to put into the same stitch. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we just need to do it one more time. And then we weave it through like that. And then we got a little knobby. And then we just do normal stitches in the rest of the stitches. And that is our little molta. And that is how Javier is going to have a thumb. Okay. So that's another case of if there wasn't pictures there, or if I hadn't done it in the past, that would have been a lot harder for me to figure out. But it was figured out. So, the rest of the stitches are literally just a tube. For the 6 a 17 vueltas, it's uno medio punto en cada uno de los 12 en P, en medio puntos, and then continue on con, and then starting with 18 a 20, es continúen con un patrón a rayas, otro llenando un vuelta en gris gráfico con un vuelta en crudo. So basically, I'm just going to be making a tube. So I'm going to check back in once there's a little bit more progress on the arms. So that way you don't just have to see me like make a tube. All right, so I finished the arm, which it's ready to be stuffed. It wants me to stuff it and sew it onto Javier, which I'm going to put off for the moment. Because not only did I do one, I did both. So we got the arm set up, and as you can see, it did not have the same, like, let's create a ridge thing that the bottom of the shirt did, which kind of strange, but hey, it is what it is. There was no, like, special instruction. So now next it wants me to make the cuernos, or cuernos, I think is how it's pronounced, cuernos. In Spanish, we pronounce everything. Unlike English, it makes more sense that way. It wants me to hagan dos con crudo, which makes me hope that these are the horns. So, I mean, what's a goat without its little horns? Oh. Do female goats have horns? I know the male goats do. Okay, you know, the first class I ever took was a speech class when I was 3. So, you know, I've been to like hundreds and hundreds of classes where they told me, well, first they were trying to get me to speak, but then it was like, Becky, you need to slow down, you need to take your time and let the words come out, and that's still something I have to remind myself constantly. So, we make our handy dandy magic ring. With 6 medio puntos. Something seems off about that particular stitch. There we go. Now we're just going to start over again. And I have a knot. Okay. Okay. We're going to try this again. But sometimes you just try a stitch it just doesn't work. You just have to do it again. It's all good. Tres. Cuatro. Cinco. Seis. Okay. There we go. I should probably reset the counter here. There we go. All right. This one's different. It just wants 1 stitch in each of the 6 stitches. So I got a feeling I'm going to have to readjust in the future. So, or I could readjust now. Pull the end of this so I know it's going to be inside the horn or the cuerno. So you got 1, 2. It doesn't want me to increase this time. It just wants me to straight up do this, which is something that often happens when the designer wants something to stay like relatively pointy in the pattern versus increasing right away, which is something that happens when in the pattern they want the piece to spread out evenly. There we go. Then for the tres vuelta, it says tejen tomando solo la hebra trasera, un medio punto, un aumentar, repeten tres veces. So it wants me to now do the increase, but it only wants me to do it in part of it, which I had to like look at the picture of Javier again. I can barely see it in person, so I don't know if you guys are going to see it. But it kind of looks like there's a ridge going on in his horn. So I think it's having me do that so he has like a ridged horn. This would typically be an instruction that I would ignore, but we're going to trust the pattern and try to get the ridge in. So, even though in order to get the ridge in, it means I have to go to the more difficult part, but we'll see. All right. So it wants me to do one, then increase. So we're going to reach in for this bad boy. All right. There we go. And now we got to reach in. And if that wasn't difficult enough, we're going to reach in again. Actually, it's easier when it's the same stitch. Because it's already kind of loose. It's like, yeah, you had to reach in for me before. I do not understand this switch that was just flipped in my mind, but okay. The problem is when you do like the increase, then it has to take the slack from somewhere, so it usually takes it from the next stitch, which means the next stitch is a little bit harder to make. So we have our third row. Thankfully, we're not changing colors in this. So we have our ridge. Because I'm doing it as a spiral, it's not quite connecting. All right. So the fourth vuelta, it just wants one stitch in each of the 9. So I have to figure out. It came from that, so this is the next stitch. Okay. That one's pretty simple. Ah. Ah. Why did they do that on the same row? So for the fifth vuelta, la cinco vuelta, it says tejan tomando solo la hebra trasera, dos media puntos, un aumentar, repeten tres veces. It wants me to do the same like ridgy thing again, which honestly the ridgy thing kind of gets lost with this particular yarn because I didn't choose a straight up tan. I chose a tan that's speckled with other browns, which honestly the other colors pull more attention to the horn than the actual like ridgy points, which the ridgy things would probably pull more attention if I just chose a straight up tan. But that would have been boring. Also, I'm not sure I have a straight up tan anymore. At least in a soft yarn. Wait, I do have a beige, but that's wool. And that would have been a different texture. There are lots of things when considering yarn choice. It's insane. Okay. Have you ever been to the yarn section of a craft store? Like a generic craft store? There's like at least 3 rows. Alright. There's a lot of choices out there. Largely cheap. Okay. We can do it again. We did it before. You know, I read something at work. I think it was at work. It's like a problem is an opportunity. And in some ways that's true. Because then you get a chance to create a story that will help you move up in the company. But sometimes you just gotta call it for what it is. A problem is a problem. It depends on where you encounter said problem. It's 1, 2. I feel like I'm missing a stitch. Did I do this properly? Yes, so it's 1, 2, and I did the increasey thing. I might be missing a stitch. This happens sometimes. Okay. So I guess the question is, how many stitches do I have now? 2. Before I do my last stitch. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Just 9. Wait. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. How? How? Okay. Unless I count this. No, that's the part of the stitch I'm going to be working from. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Huh? If I increased on it, so this is the point where I have to like ask myself. I read through the pattern, I see, does it affect anything like going forward? And since I'm only increasing up to this point, the answer is no. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull some of this out. We can fix it. So now I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 8, 9, 10, 11. So I do one more, and then I increase in the next 2, and then I'll have 12. sometimes I find myself making mistakes. And it's like, how did this happen? This shouldn't have happened. But it did. So, now this should be 12. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yep. Okay. Sometimes if the number count is off, I'll just keep on going because, like, if you have to increase or decrease, if I know the pattern isn't too difficult, then it doesn't really matter as long as it's like the appropriate size. But if it actually affects something in the future, then you want to make sure you got the right thing, especially if you know you've been increasing and you're going to have to decrease. But this is just straight up increasing. So I know I technically didn't have to go get the right size, but if I can like fake it a little bit later on, then it's a little bit easier. All right. There's our 12. Now in the proper size. And now it wants me to just do 12. Thankfully, we're not increasing this time, but it just says tejen tomando solo la hebra trasera, which means it wants me to only go in the back of the stitch again so we can get our lovely ridge for this. Which might be a bit of a fool's errand at this point, but hey, we're going to trust the book. We're going to trust what other people tell me for once. Okay. Okay. I'm feeling the urge to watch Pride and Prejudice again. I don't know why. That might be my favorite rom-com in general. It's just a general story of Pride and Prejudice. I like several different versions of it. Even though both characters are like, oh my gosh, will you just be more accepting of each other, please? But that's part of the charm, you know, when they finally do accept each other. And they get over their pride and their prejudice. And all right. Then we have the 8th Vuelta. And that is the end of what is definitely turning out to be one of the horns. There we go. If you want like a modern adaptation of Pride and Prejudice, that's not the one I'm feeling the yearning to watch right now, but I did recently. I would recommend the Lizzie Bennet Diaries. That's a lot of fun. Oh, fun fact. Colin Firth was chosen to be in Bridget Jones' Diary because he was in the PBS version of Mr. Darcy, and like the Mr. Darcy character from Bridget Jones' Diary was based off of Colin Firth. So when they actually got Colin Firth to be it, it's like, yeah, this is very serendipitous. Anyway, this is the horn. It wants me to sew it onto the head. I'll probably give it a little bit of a stuff first, even though it doesn't tell me to. You don't have a soft horn. Feel free to take that as you will. But we're gonna cut the length so we have it to sew. I'm gonna make the second horn in a little bit, but I think I need to take a break from that right now because I saw on the other page there was a little description that said Barba. You know, that's the beard. So we're gonna make the beard right now because we can. So oh, I think I just figured out a Spanish word. I'm looking at cola and it's like con marron. It's like, what is the cola? And I think that's the tail. So, but we're gonna make the beard first. So, it wants me to make a magic ring, but only with 5 this time. Where did my stitch marker go? Aha, okay. Just make sure I have it for later on, you know? So we're gonna cast on 5. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So talking about beards, one of the things that's been really interesting with the pandemic is seeing how men deal with their beards when they have to wear a mask. It's been very entertaining. So like, what I've noticed is like, lots of men, when the pandemic like was starting, they would be growing out their beards, but they only kept it at a certain length so that the mask went fully over it. So like often you'd be like walking or like you meet someone for the first time, it's like, oh yeah, it's like you don't know what the bottom half of their face looks like, and then they take off their mask and it's like, whoa, secret beard. I ended up asking someone like, does like someone who I know ended up like shaving the beard and then like growing the beard back. It's like, does having a beard make it worse or better? And he ended up telling me it was like somewhat worse because it trapped a lot of the moisture in. But like I also know someone else who like he grew out his beard, like there was no like shaving, he just has a beard all the time. But we had to wear a mask at work and he specifically got a beard mask. So when he got like a longer beard, there you go. So this next one I have to make one and increase. Okay. When you've got like a longer beard and you wear a mask, if you wear a mask over all the time, you get an indentation of where the mask is. Like, girls experience this all the time when they wear a ponytail, you know? And, like, if you wear a ponytail all the time, you take the ponytail out, you still have an indentation in your hair of where the ponytail was. So men were experiencing this with their beard. So one person I know specifically got a beard mask where it only, like, went around the top and then the mask came down. So that way it, like, covered more of his face. It covered, but it was like flesh with the beard, and so he didn't get that mark. I was like, that's a smart idea in mask innovation. I do also know someone who had a beard like during the entire pandemic, and but he wore like one of the disposable masks every day. And what he would do is he would break the bottom parts of the mask and then just tie it around the back, tie both of them together to be around the back of his head, and then the rest part would just be like resting on the beard. Yeah, I remember the first time I had to wear a mask. I hated it. It was so itchy. Probably because when I wore the mask, I had to take off the lipstick, and that added to the itchiness factor. And then we just do one in each of the 7. Okay. I eventually had to put up with it when I finally had COVID. But when it became apparent that I wasn't allowed to go to work without wearing a mask, I just got as many masks as I possibly could. Well, like reusable masks. And I still have a lot of reusable masks because it's like, okay, if I have to wear these for like all the time, why generate waste, right? I mean, why not just get a cloth mask that feels better and then also helps the environment a little bit more? And honestly, if I sincerely hope we're not in a position where I have to wear masks all over again, like every single time I go out and like every single time I go out to work. But if I do, I'm sad. I actually started getting like a lot of those like clear paneled masks. So that way, because I work in a noisy place, and one of the most frustrating parts about having to wear a mask is I relied a lot on lip reading to read people, like lip reading people to understand them, especially since several of the people I like talking to are hard to understand. And I thought like, oh, if I wear like the clear panel and people have trouble understanding me, because I know I'm not the easiest person to understand, they can at least lip read me if other people are like me in that regard. And it freaked a lot of people out, but lots of people liked it. Okay. Wants me to stuff this one a little bit. Yeah, there are definitely people at work who I did not start understanding until we were allowed to take the mask off again. It's like, okay, I can finally read your lips. I can finally hear you in this noisy place. There we go. We have our little Barba. Although this is going to be Javier's little Barba. We're just going to make the cola real quick. I hope, like, do we have a back view of Javier? No. Wow. Every picture I have of Javier shows him from the front. Usually when you have like a stuffed animal and they show you a picture of the stuffed animal, they'll show you a picture from like multiple angles. So that way, if you have to attach little pieces, you can kind of sense where they belong and what they're supposed to look like. So this is just going to be a pure dumb guess. Hoping I have the cola in the... that I'm like doing the right thing, but it says Comaron, so maybe there'll be like a little hole in like what I assume is the mameluco of where the tail is supposed to go. Otherwise, I mean, unless there's like a hole in like the overalls, there's no point in having a tail. It caused like a weird little lump that, I mean, as a human, every human has a weird lump somewhere that dangles off of their body. Or most humans have a weird lump that dangles off of their body somewhere. I think you know where I'm going with this. And they put up with it because we have to wear things under our clothes that kind of like hold it close, or they just let it hang and just deal with it that way. But with a stuffed animal, you're making it, so you're not like bound to keep doing that. I hope I'm making sense here. I really hope I do. Okay. Or I really hope I am. Anyway, we're going to make our little magic ring again. All right, so we have 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. We're going to put this back on. Then we make 1 in each of the 5. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Simple enough. All right. And now we increase in each one of the 5 to get 10. This one we do not stuff. And I got the confirmation it's the tail. No la relenen, cosa la cola en la parte de atrás, centrada entre las vueltas. 42 y 43. It says, put it on the part that's behind. That's where tails go. So, this is definitely the tail, and it looks like we're going for the tail of a bunny rabbit here, which is not the type of tail I would have been expecting had I been expecting a tail for this guy. I would have expecting like a long waggly tail, like you braid a little bit and have a little bit of a fringe on the bottom type of deal. Okay. So now I have that row, and then we just do 1 more in each of the 10 stitches, and we got our little tail. Here we go. So we're going to cut off a little bit. Seal it off. Kind of stuff the rest of that string inside, because what else is it going to really do, even though it says not to stuff. There's a little tail. Kind of looks like the poop emoji, but only because it's brown. It's not going to look like that on Javier once we sew it on. Just like a little boop, boop. Okay. I'm going insane. Okay. So I think what I'm going to do at this point is, there's one more part that says orejas, which I know are the ears. So it says hagan dos con morón. So I'm going to make one of the ears real quick, and then I'm going to pause to make the other horn and the other ear. So to make the ear, it wants me to make dos con morón, and then it wants me to make another magic ring con seis media puntos. There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. And now we increase in each of the 6 stitches. This one I'm probably going to actually have to keep track of the rows. The other 2 were just like so short, I didn't even have to keep track. I was like, yeah, if it's just 4 rows, I can very easily remember. I'm just going to complete it in one go. But if it's longer and I know I could potentially get interrupted, that's when I have to like keep track of the rows in some way, shape, or form. And we need some sort of written record of it because we know my mind often confuses things. Or it can remember things, but it could just as easily misremember the things. So, safeguard. There we go. And then 1 in each of the 12 stitches. And then it wants me to increase it again. Ah, okay. So basically it's going to have me increase and then decrease to get like a kind of a petal shape. So now it wants me to increase. No, it wants me to do 1, then increase. One, then increase. There we go. So basically at this point, it's going to have me do stuff that you've already seen me do, which is like increase and decrease and increase and decrease. So I'll check back when it's a little bit later and I've completed both ears and I've completed the other horn. Alright, so I finished crocheting the little pieces and I skipped a little bit ahead and I sewed them all on and oh my gosh, look at Javier, right? Adorable with the little tail and whatnot. So all we have left is the mameluco, which I'm guessing is the little overall set. So that way he actually has some pants, you know. Despite the fact Javier could be done right now and be adorable and the little kid wouldn't care. But the pattern calls for the little overalls. So we're going to make the little overalls. And if you look at the picture, I mean, this is Javier that I'm working towards. And this is the part that I need to make. And the start of the pattern tells me con marron, which is brown, but I don't see any brown in this. So I'm going to ignore that. Also, it has me do it with the yellow, but I think this will be like a cute little thing. I just reached into my stash and just pulled it out, and it's like, you know, red and blue goes well. It'll be cute. Especially since I don't feel like searching for like that golden yellow right now. Like, it's a nice golden yellow, but it's not a color that would attract me. So if I have it, I probably don't have very much of it. Not that I would need very much of it. I think this is all that I would need. But I don't think that it's necessarily guaranteed in there. Nor do I feel like, look, I do have a lot of yellow in there, actually. Oh, yeah. But all the yellow I have in there is like bright, vibrant canary yellow. Kind of like this kind of yellow. Because, like, again, like, yellow ochre as a color is kind of like, I understand it's necessary, like, when you're painting, but I would never choose that as, like, oh, yeah, this is a color I would love to have. So, I'm going to start with the red. That's where I'm going here. Because it looks like the yellow. If I'm looking at the part, it looks like the yellow. So it says, Tejan 48 CAD. I'm assuming I assume that's a chain. It's 40 something, right? It's the, yeah, CAD is the abbreviation for chain. All right. Now, I have a little handy trick for keeping count when I have to chain something. There you go. In general, I'm very bad when it comes to counting. Not that I don't know how to count, but when I count, I often add one more than it needs to be, or I drop one more. So I'm usually like one off in either direction. So I like to keep count in 10. So when I chain like this, I'll usually put a stitch marker at the 10 mark, so that way I remember, okay, I see this, I know it's 10, and then I just have to count. I do that at work all the time, because if I actually had to count, like, I often have to take inventory of certain things, and if I have to count the individual containers that the inventory is stored in, I would go mad. So they're not allowed to be like stacked higher than 5 high. So what I'll do is I'll count groups of 5, and then I'll multiply that number by 5, and boom. And then I'll add the groups of 4, and then usually by the groups of 3 and 2 and 1, I can usually just add them all together without going mad, if people stack them properly. If they don't stack them properly, well, that's on them. Alright, So I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'm gonna put the stitch marker in there. Now I know that's 10. This technique is also really good for when I have to make something and I have to do like hundreds of stitches. And it's like, yeah, I'm not going to keep track of that. I don't want to have to count over 100 stitches more than twice, you know. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We're just going to do an 11 there. So that way I put the one in that stitch. So I got 30. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And now just 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now let's double check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. So now I know I got 48 and I don't have to repeatedly count to make sure. So it says, asegúrense que la cadena no está torcida y unen ambos extremos con un punto enano. Continúan trabajando en espiral. This is the first time the pattern's mentioned to work in the spiral. So I guess if I started with an earlier pattern, it might have gone like, hey, we're going to be working for all the patterns in this book in like the not spiral. But I always work in the spiral, and if it doesn't tell me otherwise, I will work in spiral. So, okay. But uno punto nano, is that a particular instruction I should be aware of? Dice los puntos. Punto nano, 21. Punto nano. Este punto no tiene autor y pocas veces se utiliza para llenar extensos. En cambio, es el que usamos casi siempre para unir vueltas, para unir piezas, para... Oh! It just looks like a slip stitch. Yeah, looking at the pictures here, it just looks like connect them with a slip stitch, making sure that they are not twisting. So, easy enough. Muy fácil. There we go. And now I'm just going to put a stitch marker there and take the other stitch markers out because I don't need them anymore. Voila. Okay. Un medio punto en cada de unos 40 puntos. Okay. And now we just continue like a normal. Although this is cotton yarn and it keeps coming unwound from itself, and it's like, why? We're not leaving anything behind here. It's all coming together. All right. So at this point, as I'm reading the pattern over, it looks like that, what's it called? It looks like it's pretty simple. So once I do one stitch into the 24, it wants me to do 23 stitches and then increase 2 times. And then it's got this pattern. And it wants me, it says, Patron Jacquard, which I'm guessing is this thing right here. It wants me to do that pattern for the pants. So I'm going to come back when I've completed that part and I'm ready to work on the patas del mamaluco, because for some reason the light shining my face is bothering me more today than it usually does. So I'll be back. Alright, so I've crocheted that part, and I didn't realize at the time was there's a little bit of the instructions. It said like salten cinco puntos and then bring it back. So it had a little hole for the tail, which now it wants me to make the patas del mamaluco. So it says dividian el tejido marcando 4 puntos para el espacio central delante entre las patas, 4 puntos para el espacio trasero y 21 puntos para cada pata. Acá es muy útil para marcar del puntos. Obviously. Obviously, it's easier to, like, I don't know how I would do it without marking the stitches. Si las patas no cuadran bien alineadas con el centro del mamaluco, dejan o desejan algunos para llegar a la posición deseada. Asegúrense que el espacio para la cola está en el medio. So here it's basically saying you're going to be marking off 4 different points. So the middle, and then the so like in the middle where like the crotch is going to be, so it separates into the rest will be for the legs. And it's not necessarily saying like go from this particular stitch to where you want to go. It's going more like figure out where the tail is going to be in the middle, and then go from there. And then once you do it, make sure there are 21 stitches on both sides so the legs are even. And then I continue. So, this is a good time for Javier to try on his pants so I can find out where things are going to go. So we're going to put it on so the little tail pokes out. All right. And I'm going to mark number 4 stitches. I just realized what a sexual position this looks like, even though that's not what the intention for this was. All right. So, you got 4 stitches divided there. And we got 4 stitches there. Okay. So now Javier's going to take the pants off. And we're going to find out if I got 21 stitches on both sides. So, let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 20. Man, I'm good. Okay. So, now that I got that exactly where I want it to go, clearly we know what leg I'm going to be working on first, so I'm going to continue the pattern, which, I mean, it's turned out kind of cute. It's not looking exactly like how it does in the picture, but no one's going to notice that, except the people watching this video, because I just told you. Union con un PMV al último punto para. I don't understand all the individual words, but I recognize this set of instructions enough to know that for the next row, when I get around here, instead of going to this stitch, which I marked off, I'm going to go across to the next stitch and connect the legs that way. So, we're just going to connect them now in some fashion when the yarn balls get untangled from each other. Thank you. Okay. So basically, I would just continue like this for 10 rows while keeping this lovely pattern that I have going. Fortunately, I have it like on, I didn't start the pattern as early as it told me to, because then I would have had the red stripe with this and I didn't want to deal with that difficulty, and I think it worked. So, now that I've attached those stitches together, I can remove 2 of the stitch markers. There you go. Because they serve their purpose. And when I start the next one, I will obviously bring these 2, seal these 2 together with some stitches before I attach the next leg. So yeah, we're going to keep on going with this and give Javier some little pantalones. Because once I did that part, it said for 10 vuelta, 20 vuelta en jacquard, uno medio punto en cada de los 21 medio puntos. And then for the last row, I will just slip stitch it all. We'll see how it goes from there. Alright, so I finished the pants of the Mameluco, and I think I lost track on the second leg, quite honestly, because if you look, this is more of a straight leg, and this is more of a bell bottom, so I think I lost track and probably added a stitch somewhere where I wasn't supposed to, and also I probably lost track of where this was, because this ended on row 20 with the red bits, and this ended on row 19. But I don't care enough to take it out. The goal is to finish it, but not necessarily finish it perfectly. So, we're going to try this on Javier to see how it fits. Come on, Javier. In, buddy. I already weaved in all the ends. Oh. Oh my gosh. You know what this is like? The way it's fitting Javier right now, I mean, his little tail's poking through. But also, this is a lot like, those Y2K pictures where, like, Christina Aguilera and, like, Britney Spears are wearing the super low rises, and it's like, they have to, like, they can't bend over because suddenly you're going to see everything. That's what it feels like. I now understand why there's, like, a little front to the Mameluco, why this isn't just a pair of pants. I once made a pair of pants for my American Girl doll. And I got, like, the legs right, but I didn't get that right, so it's literally, like, you could only cover the vulva or the butt at one time. You couldn't cover both, and it was bad. Yeah. Anyway, we're now gonna do the final part of the Mameluco, and that, we're gonna get that done. Anyway, also, like, what's it called? I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, now I remember what I was going to say. Another thing that could have affected how this was I was able to, like, keep the hook in a comfortable position here, but when I was making this, like, the hook was, like, in a really uncomfortable position because I kept wanting to push the yarn to the outside, but I couldn't push the yarn to the outside because then, like, you can see when you're not using the yarn, it kind of, like, drags along, and that dragging along would happen along the outside, and that's not where you want the yarn to drag along. You want to drag along on the inside, on, like, the wrong side of the outfit. So, yeah. We're going to start making the pechera del Mameluco now. It's con amarillo. Well, we're using this in vez de amarillo. Continúo en trabajo en la pechera tomando 12 puntos centrales de la vuelta, una de Mameluco. So I guess we fold this in half and determine what are the center 12 stitches. So, let's see. Let's get a little stitch marker out because I get the sense once I find the middle, I'm going to count to the middle and then I'm going to count 6 out from the middle and boom, the 12 are centralized. So, 1, 2, 2, 3, 4, 4, 7, 7, 8, 8, 9, 9, 10, 10, 11, 11. We have an odd number, people. So we're just going to go with that. 6 from that. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And 6 from that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And we hope that's 12 centrally placed. You know, there's like a job at work where sometimes I have to work 2 stations at once. And yeah, we're gonna, first we do that. We're working in rows now. But yeah, we'll just do that 12 row. Okay. So back when I was, so in order to make sure that both amount of stations got an equal amount of work, what I would do is I would count to like 10 or to 20, depending on what I felt like at the time. Like if I'm doing that particular job, I will often count to 20, simply so the other person who's like making sure that I'm able to work actually has enough work, is not constantly switching sides like I am. But one time I was doing that and I was counting out loud so I wouldn't lose track. So it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so like this guy ended up walking by me and he was wearing like a color shirt he doesn't typically wear. So it caught my attention. It's like, whoa, he's wearing a white shirt. Okay. But I wasn't saying that loud. I was saying the number that came to mind, and my face is muffled by a face mask. So he turns to me and goes like, excuse me. And I was like, wait, what? I don't get what's going on. And then I realized I said the number 6 while looking at him. But he misheard it and probably just heard me say sex. And I was like, oh my gosh. What? Like that was not what I meant to say, buddy. I'm sorry. I have never brought that up with him ever again. In general, that guy is kind of awkward, but it was like stupid face mask muffling what I was saying. It's like, okay, all right. We get to have a lovely little misunderstanding today. What's a day without a misunderstanding, really? And it was like one of those misunderstandings that happens, and it's like, is it even worth correcting what I said, honestly? It's like, it's not that important, you know? So now I do 7 rows where I just like increase and create like the little like thing, and then I do some more, so I will check back in a little bit later. Alright, I made the little front to this, and then I realized I made another mistake. So it's asking, basically it asked for a specialty stitch, but I just did the single crochet, and it wasn't, I thought like, oh, the specialty stitch will just be like on the last row, and it's like, nope. It should have been for the whole thing, but who cares about that really? It's a little front. I mean, it would have provided a nice texture thing. It would have been a nice learning experience, but so now we are up to like the last 2 paragraphs of the entire pattern, which is very exciting. This is like that time where it's like, I know I'm very near the end, and so I'm a lot more likely to mess up because I'm so excited to be near the end, and it's like, let's slow down, Becky. Let's take it step by step. So here it says, sin cortar la hebra, continúen tejando los tirantes y la cintura. So I guess Los Tirantes is straps because I know La Cintura is the belt. So let's just... Tejan 21 CAD, that's the chain. Comención en el de CAD desde la agua 20 enuando. Well, let's just do the 21 chain stitches that I know I need to do. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. Okay. Oh. Okay. So it wants me to count 20 from this thing and then start in like the next stitch. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Wait. Something's up here. I'm misunderstanding something. It wants me to do 20 chain stitches. Oh, let me take a closer look at the picture of Javier. Oh, it wants me to go back down. It doesn't necessarily want me to... Continuing in the... See, I don't really understand what's going on here. But I can see from the picture that the strap isn't just one, so I think it wants me to continue. El borde superior de la pechera. Oh, superior is probably the top. Okay, so it wants me to make the straps first. So now that I've done 21 here, I go back. I got the feeling that I've done this backwards. But sure. Sure, let's do this. I'm gonna put this here to kind of lift up the Mamaluco so you guys can kind of see what I'm doing here. It's like twisted on me. Which honestly, one strap probably wouldn't have been enough to hold the thing. It's kind of good that we're doing a second thing here. Even if it creates like a bulky look. Yeah, I notice that happening when I'm like teaching people all the time. It's like they get the hang of whatever I'm teaching them, and then they've got like an hour left, and then boom, they're starting to make stupid mistakes. It's like, come on, you know better than this. It's like, I usually diffuse it by going like, yeah, we know it's that time of day. It's that time of day. We're all tired here. So now it wants me to continue this in el borde superior de echera 10 de enano. Okay. I got a better sense of what's going on right now. Yeah. Why is that one part of the yarn not going through? There we go. So in the instructions later on, they must explain how to do it. Because if I was just doing it on my assumptions, I would have gone here. I would have attached it. I would have gone across and then attached it that way. And that probably would have been all I did. But the instructions say something different. So we're going to follow the instructions. Yeah. All right. So now we did the 12. Ah. Okay, I see what's going on now. It's going to want me to go down and then we tighten up the back a little bit so we don't have the Christina Aguilera look as much. And we're going to finish at this part right here. Okay. All right. And then it wants me to sew on this, unless it was going for a halter look. But judging from Javier, it doesn't look like Javier has a halter. So, I'm gonna come back when it's finished. Yeah, when I finally go around and do the things it wants me to do. Está finito! This is the completed Javier, and oh my gosh, I mean, he was pretty dang adorable already without the little overall set, but now that he's wearing the overall set, my heart is about to explode from adorableness. Yeah, like, oh my gosh, I mean, look. It's like, I'm very happy with how this turned out. Very, very happy. I mean, this is the picture that I was working towards. So you can say I got pretty close. I'm very happy with this. Oh my gosh. So yeah, that was, I mean, this turned out very, very well. Like, this is up to how it would turn out for me in English, honestly. Like, because the amount of deviations that I took, I mean, they'd be very similar deviations to what I would take in English. But yeah, that was crocheting in Spanish. And to be honest, I really enjoyed this process. So I'm going to be doing this process again with a different language. I believe the next language I plan on doing this with is French. So stay tuned for that. But that was today's entertainment. Have a nice day.